Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like the more you share, the less people take you seriously? Like the moment you start explaining your dreams, your goals, your next move, the energy shifts. Suddenly, what felt sacred now feels exposed. What felt powerful starts to feel fragile. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. When you reveal everything, you surrender control, not just of your plans, but of your energy, your motivation, and your emotional clarity. You see, we live in a culture that worships transparency. Be real, be vulnerable, speak your truth. But somewhere along the way, we confuse truth with exposure. And the moment you put your next move on loudspeaker, you give the world a front row seat to your process. And not everyone sitting there is cheering you on. Let's get one thing straight. Not everyone who claps is your friend. Some people applaud your plans just to track them. Some ask questions not out of love, but out of calculation. Some offer advice only to slip in doubt between the lines. And when you talk too soon, you give them the opportunity to rearrange your vision with their opinions, their fears, their limitations. That's how self-doubt starts. It doesn't always begin inside of you. Sometimes it walks through the door disguised as a caring voice, as a helpful suggestion, as a realistic concern. And suddenly, what was once a pure vision becomes a compromised idea, not because you changed your heart, but because you gave too many people access to it. Let me give you a deeper truth. Your dreams deserve incubation. Like seeds buried deep beneath the soil, they need time to take root. Not every idea is ready for sunlight. Not every plan is meant for public discussion. Some things grow better in silence, in stillness, in solitude. You think you're being bold when you announce your next move, but in reality, you might be leaking your momentum. Because what happens when you tell the world you're going to write a book or start a business or leave the relationship? You get a hit of dopamine, the reward chemical in your brain. It tricks you into feeling like you've already done something important. But here's the problem. You haven't taken action. You've just made a declaration. You haven't planted roots. You've just opened the gate. And in that space, your brain relaxes. It celebrates a victory that hasn't been earned. And slowly the urgency dies. This is why the most powerful people in the world don't talk about what they're doing. They show you when it's done. They don't move for applause. They don't broadcast their ambition. They don't ask for permission. They build in silence. They rise in private. And when they appear, it's not noise, it's presence. It's not drama, it's delivery. Think about it. The most unforgettable people in your life weren't the loudest. They weren't the ones constantly narrating their every step. They were the ones who left you wondering. They were the ones who said less, but moved differently. They didn't seek to be understood. They chose to be respected. That's the power of mystery. Mystery doesn't mean hiding, it means honoring. It's choosing not to share everything, not out of fear, but out of respect for your own process. Because here's what no one tells you. The moment you speak your next move, it becomes vulnerable to resistance, to judgment, to doubt. And not just from others, but from yourself. Suddenly, your mind starts calculating how it will be perceived. You start performing instead of progressing. You start questioning instead of building. And that's where your energy gets drained. When you constantly explain your vision, you invite commentary. And commentary creates noise. And noise kills clarity. But the woman who keeps her next move to herself, she's not secretive. She's strategic. She knows that her energy is sacred. She understands that silence is not the absence of communication, it's the presence of power. Because every moment you don't explain, you strengthen your belief. Every moment you don't seek approval, you cultivate a discipline. Every moment you don't perform, you sharpen focus. And eventually, that silence turns into execution. That silence turns into outcomes. That silence turns into respect, not because you said you would do something, but because you did it. So let me ask you this. What are you leaking out of habit that you should be protecting out of self-respect? Are you speaking your dreams because you're excited or because you're insecure and want validation? Are you inviting people into your vision because they've earned the right or because you're afraid to build alone? Because the truth is, your next move is sacred. And when you hand it to just anyone, you dilute its power. So here's your new mantra. I don't owe access. I owe alignment. You don't owe the world an explanation for every step you take. You don't need to narrate your evolution in real time. You don't need to defend your desires or justify your timing. You need to build, you need to focus, you need to protect. Because the life you want, the identity you crave, won't be created in noise. It will be forged in silence, in stillness, in sacred solitude. And when you finally arrive, when the world sees what you've built, when the results speak louder than your words ever could, you won't need to say, I told you so. You'll just need to smile. Because real power is quiet. It doesn't announce, it becomes. So ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped explaining? If you moved in silence? If you let your actions become your voice? If this message stirred something in you, I'd love to hear what you're protecting right now. Drop it in the comments or keep it to yourself and let your results speak. Like this video if it resonated. And don't forget to subscribe, because this journey of self-discipline, clarity, and becoming unstoppable has only just begun. Thank you for walking this path with me. Let's move in power. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Every time you say, I always mess this up, I'm just not good enough, no one ever really sees me, your brain listens. But worse than that, so does everyone else. And here's the harsh truth. Not everyone who hears your pain will hold it with compassion. Some will nod and pretend to care. Some will weaponize it when you're most vulnerable. Some will use it to quietly reinforce the version of you they want to keep you trapped in. You see, we've been told to speak our truth, to be raw, to be real, but nobody told us this part. Your insecurities are not public property. They're not meant for every room. They're not for every person. Because while vulnerability is beautiful, overexposure is dangerous. And here's the line no one teaches you how to draw. The line between honesty and identity, between this is what I'm working through and this is who I am. Because what you repeat, you become. And if every conversation is filled with confessions of what you're lacking, don't be surprised when that's all people start to see. Let me break it down for you. Your brain operates on patterns. It doesn't judge. It doesn't reason. It just repeats. So every time you say, I always choose the wrong person, I'm not smart enough to build this, I'm just not confident like other people, you're not venting, you're programming. Your brain doesn't say, oh, she's just having a bad day. It says, got it. That's who we are now. And it starts filtering the world through that lens. It starts looking for evidence to support it. And it starts building a self-identity that matches your words, not your potential. That's why you can't afford to keep speaking from insecurity. Because every time you do, you deepen the roots of a belief system that was never yours to begin with. And even more than that, you give other people the blueprint to manipulate you. Not everyone will, but it only takes one person to remember that thing you said when you were tired and fragile. One person to echo your own doubts back to you when they want control. One person to remind you of your wounds, not to help you heal, but to keep you small. That's how quiet control begins. Not through shouting, not through conflict, but through subtle reinforcement of the lies you've already told yourself. And that's why some of the most powerful women you'll ever meet, they do their healing in silence. They don't deny their insecurities. They just don't narrate them. They write them out in journals. They pray over them at night. They explore them in therapy. They unpack them in solitude. But they don't hand them out like business cards. They don't say, here's my weakness, be gentle. Because they know not everyone is gentle. You don't hand a sword to someone and hope they don't swing it. You learn how to carry your own pain with grace and then reveal it only when someone's earned the right to hold it. And you'll know who those people are. They won't demand your backstory before they respect your presence. They won't require proof of your pain before they believe in your strength. They'll honor your silence as much as your sharing. That's how you know they're safe. Now, listen carefully. This is not about pretending you're perfect. This is not about hiding your humanity. This is not about bottling everything up and putting on a mask. This is about emotional mastery. It's about choosing when where, and with whom your vulnerability is offered. Because when everything is visible, nothing is sacred. When every flaw is repeated, it becomes your identity, not your challenge. And when you speak from insecurity over and over again, your power begins to disappear beneath the volume of your own doubt. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you heard yourself say something negative about yourself and stopped? When was the last time you caught yourself saying, I'm such an overthinker, or I'll never get this right, and asked, is this who I am or just who I've been? Because if you never question it, your words become your world. But here's the beautiful thing. You can rewire it all. Just like you programmed your fears with repetition, you can build new strength with repetition too. Speak your growth. Speak your resilience. Speak your self-respect. Even if it feels unfamiliar at first, it's not fake. It's not arrogant. It's reprogramming because your mind is always listening. So make sure what it hears from you is building, not breaking. Let's go even deeper. When you heal in silence, you become dangerous. Not because you're hiding something, but because you're fortifying it. You're transforming without needing to be witnessed. You're evolving without needing applause. And that kind of woman, she becomes unshakable because she knows her insecurities are not invitations. They're not for anyone to interpret, to comment on, to use. They are hers to heal, to grow through, and to outgrow. And when she emerges, she doesn't need to tell the world she's healed. They'll feel it in how she walks. They'll see it in how she speaks. They'll hear it in what she no longer says. Because now her silence isn't fear, it's authority. It's the kind of authority that makes people lean in but never too close. Because mystery is back. And with mystery comes respect. And with respect comes space. And with space comes power. So ask yourself, are you feeding your insecurities with every conversation? Are you narrating your wounds in hope someone will finally understand? Are you hoping your weakness will make someone stay? Because if you are, it's time to stop. Not because your pain isn't real, but because it's too real to be left in unqualified hands. Choose healing, but choose it with discernment. Your scars are sacred, and not everyone deserves to see where you bled before you became who you are. There's something I need you to hear today, not just with your ears, but with your soul. Your past is not a conversation starter. It's not a proof of worth. And it is definitely not for public consumption, because your past is sacred. Not because it was perfect, but because it was yours. You bled for it. You cried through it. You rebuilt from ruins no one saw. And for that alone, it deserves protection. You see, we live in a world that glamorizes oversharing, post the pain, tell the trauma, bleed in real time so others feel connected. But what no one tells you is this. The more you expose, the less people respect. Not because they're evil, but because human psychology works like this. When something is easy to access, it's easy to discard. When something is sacred and protected, it becomes magnetic. You don't walk into a palace and expect the queen's diary on the table. You don't enter a temple and ask the priest to give you the behind-the-scenes mess. The energy shifts. There's reverence. Because what is guarded commands honor. And yet, so many women hand over their story like it's a free sample. They pour out their darkest chapters to people who haven't earned the right to witness them. They retell the pain of their childhood, the betrayal from past lovers, the moments they almost gave up, all in the name of being real. But being real doesn't mean being reckless. Let me say it again. Your story made you, but not everyone deserves to hold it. Some people ask out of curiosity, not care. Some listen to judge, not support. Some remember the broken version of you just so they can keep you small when your light starts to shine. And that's where discernment becomes everything. Because you need to know who's asking so they can understand you and who's asking just so they can define you. Who wants to hold space for your healing and who wants to hold your past over your head when it suits them. This is how people lose their power. Not because they're weak, but because they were too generous with what was never meant to be shared with everyone. Now, let me be clear. This isn't about shame. This isn't about hiding your scars or pretending you're untouched. This is about honoring your evolution. Because if someone only knows the older version of you, the broken one, the insecure one, the reactive one, then they will forever relate to that version. And every time you try to show growth, they'll pull you back down with their memory of who you used to be. It's not always intentional, but it's real. The human brain clings to patterns. And if someone categorizes you through your pain, it's very hard for them to see your power. So here's the shift. Lead with who you are now, not with the pain that formed you, not with the darkness you climbed out of, not with the stories that still echo at night. That's your past. It shaped you, but it doesn't own you. And the moment you stop leading with your history, you make space for people to see your presence, to experience your power, to connect with your becoming, not your surviving. There's something psychologists call selective vulnerability. It means being honest without being exposed, being real without handing over the most delicate parts of you to people who haven't earned the privilege. It's not dishonesty. It's emotional wisdom. Because when you reveal everything, you take away the mystery. You give people too much data too early, and now they feel entitled to your story, your triggers, your identity. They start building an image of you that you didn't choose. And when that happens, your growth becomes trapped inside someone else's limited imagination of who you are. Let me ask you something. Have you ever opened up to someone, shared the truth about your mistakes, your trauma, your rock bottom, and felt them look at you differently afterward? Not with compassion, but with quiet judgment, a shift in energy you couldn't quite explain, but you felt it? That's the danger. Because now they don't see your present, they see a timeline. They see a file folder of what you've been through. And in their mind, you're forever tied to that identity. But here's what powerful women do differently. They speak with presence, not apology. They lead with wisdom, not wounds. They share their story only when it empowers, not when it exposes. They know that healing doesn't always need a microphone. Sometimes healing happens in silence, in shadows, in sacred space. And that's okay. You don't owe anyone your scars. You don't owe your truth to strangers. You don't need to unpack your soul just to prove you're authentic. You are authentic in how you carry yourself, in how you protect your peace, in how you don't need to be understood to be respected. Because here's the final truth. The people who truly love you, the ones who are safe for your soul, they won't demand every detail. They won't pressure you to relive pain for their clarity. They'll respect your boundaries. They'll honor the silence. They'll see your strength without needing to see your suffering. That's how you know they're the ones who belong in your life. So I'll leave you with this. You are not what happened to you. You are what you chose to become after it. Your past is not your resume. It's your foundation buried deep, supporting the empire you're building now. And like any queen, you don't show the throne room to just anyone. You guard it, you protect it, you keep it sacred. Because when your story is treated with that kind of reverence, it no longer weighs you down. It crowns you.